Hey,
Oh, yeah, you wouldn't. Well, you might. Sorry.
hello everybody, and welcome to the Wednesday morning that shall not be named. Sorry again, a little late start as everything is going on all the time. It's Mikveh Israel. So we're here with some excellent people as always. So welcome to Ron and Arlene and Flossie and Lou and David and Eva and who else is on here, all right? And then anybody else who is on or who is watching on YouTube. We were away for a little bit as we had high holidays and other things, but we are back and better than ever, and we should be having class every week until Thanksgiving. So I hope everybody's doing well. Yes, Flossie.
I have a question. I'm sorry, maybe I should know the answer, but why did Moses not get into the promised land? What did he
That,
do?
that is an excellent question. Nobody knows the real answer because it just says you're not going in, basically. However, immediately beforehand, so basically,
Oh, yeah,
is
you
it
wouldn't.
cause and
Well, you might.
effect or is it coincidence? And we don't know the timeline is. So
Hello,
right,
everybody, and welcome to the
what happened there?
Wednesday morning that shall not be named.
All right, there we go. So right before God says you're not going to the promised land, Moses hits the rock the second time. So it's very controversial because the first time when the people are upset, there's no food, there's no water, God says hit the rock, and Moses hits the rock. The second time people are upset and doing this whole thing, God says speak to the rock, and Moses hits the rock instead out of anger. It does not say that that's the reason he doesn't go into the land of of Israel or Canaan, but it happens right afterwards. It's the next story. Now, does that mean it's a day later or months later? That, of course, is not told because the Bible is not a history book per se. It's a book about how to be a good human being and teaching us what to do and what not to do and be connected to God. Because if it's a history book, it's not very good because it goes back and forth. It doesn't give dates. It doesn't usually say how far. So that's the most often thought. There are other reasons. I personally think the reason he doesn't go in is the people don't need a pharaoh. They don't need a demigod. And if Moses at this point is becoming or has become this presence, he has a relationship with God, panim el panim, face to face. And if you let him, he's in great, he's in good health, even though he's 120. So he could literally be the dictator or become a god to these people. And so I believe from my perspective and many others, this is not pulling out of a rabbit's hat, a rabbit, is that it's time that this is going to be a people's religion, not a religion of a singular godlike individual. And that's also the reason his children are barely mentioned. They have really no role to play in the story. And that is because, like a pharaoh, who takes over when Pharaoh dies? Who's the next Pharaoh? Pharaoh's son, unless there's some sort of upheaval. And so they don't want Moses' children to be the dynastic prophetic lineage of connected to God. Although they do connect Aaron and his, they make that the religion, but not, Moses is not the religious leader. He is the head of state. Aaron is the religious leader. So the religion will still have that bloodline in it until the second temple is destroyed, but the head of state will not. And so that's why I think. Karen.
I don't think it never mentions who the Pharaoh, it just says Pharaoh, correct?
And the story of Moses, it just says Pharaoh, yeah.
But we believe it was one of the Ramesses the Fourth. There were a whole line of
Right.
Ramesses.
I mean, we have no idea, and I can do a whole thing on which Pharaoh it
Pharaoh.
was. The reason Ramses II is most often thought to be the pharaoh is because it does mention the two cities the slaves are working on building stuff in. One is Pithom,
Okay.
and one is Ramses. So we
Okay.
know Ramses is mentioned. Does that mean it is because Ramses, the pharaoh?
Second. Yeah.
It could be. I mean, that's probably still the most popular thought. I don't even know any updated research, but there's a lot who come before or after. Some think it's Amenhotep. Some think it's King Tutankhamun, who's a boy king.
Right. Right.
Some think it was others. There's others going back. We don't even know the date.
It couldn't have been King Tut because he died so young,
He
right?
did, but what if he was a child when he said this? Or what if it was his father who was so there's a lot of debate as to who it was. A
'Cause
child
we've-
could easily lose slaves.
Yeah, we were when we toured Egypt a few years back, we were trying to figure, from all the burial sites and we were trying to figure out which pharaoh it might have been. And
It could have been any of them. It's really because they don't give a date. 1300 to 1200 is, I think, the most popular, but it could be 1500. It could be 200 years earlier. We know generally we have proof the Israelites are in the land in the 12th and 11th century. We have, I think, excavations of tribe of Dan and some others. We know the kingship is, there in the 10th century. There's some not definitive proof, but there's a lot of evidence from later that there was. But really, we don't even know when it happened. We don't know when the Exodus happened. So it makes it more fun because we don't know. So what we're going to talk about today, though, if anybody has any other questions, though, because that's an excellent question. Flossie.
Two quickies. How did Moses take the decision that he was not going into the land? And is he the only person, quote, in Judaism who saw God, who conversed with God directly?
Great questions. How did Moses take the revelation that he was not going into the land after leading these people all those years? The answer is not well. He was not happy about it. Again, even our greatest prophets are just human beings as well. We know Martin Luther King was not perfect. There were a lot of, issues he had. Nelson Mandela, his wife, Sister Teresa, was often thought as not a very nice person in reality, although she did so many good things. So our greatest figures often have flaws, and his flaw was often his lack of control. And so he was not happy. A lot of the book of Deuteronomy, you can feel that he's not happy about it. If he was old to the point that his body wasn't working, he was losing his mind. But I think he felt that he's in perfect condition. He didn't want to die, and his life's work should not be in vain from his personal perspective. But he got over it. And what he ended up doing was telling people, I'm going to die. I'm not happy about it, but this is here what you need to do. So that's my perspective. There are others who will kind of go the other way, but it's pretty obvious, I think, that he was not pleased about it.
Is he the only one who spoke directly to God?
Oh, yeah, the answer is yes. So now you can also count Adam and Eve. That probably is even traditionally thought of as a story, not necessarily fact. It's a representation of the origins of humanity and the line of Judaism. Abraham sort of, kind of, maybe was told what to do, but most prophets, later God speaks to them in dreams, and there's not it's not an I-it relationship. So, but yes, it does say at the end of Deuteronomy, which we just read, there will never be another prophet like Moses who spoke to God face to face. Now, even face to face for Moses, it was just a glimmer, just a second, kind of like looking at the sun. But he was the only one.
Thank you.
It's a profound story That's why it is so profound, because it has a happy ending in some ways for everybody but Moses.
Yeah.
But it's a great, yeah. And again, it's important that we talk about these things. But we're going to talk about something else, because I was just thinking that we hadn't really gotten to some of the roots of our religion. Sometimes we kind of ignore the basis or the basics. So I hope everybody had a good Yentif, by the way. We just finished yesterday here, so it was a lot going on for a long time. Most congregations after Yom Kippur, they just take the next year off. But of course, we went big time with a big Friday night program, a Dosen Shabbat, Simchat Torah services yesterday. We have a Women of Valor event on Sunday. And then, of course, we have Food Festival, our biggest event of the year, in a month, less than 3 weeks. So we gear up. Everybody else is taking a little nice rest, and we go the other direction. So, but we just in services a lot. So I want to make sure we understand kind of the basic idea behind prayer a little bit. Now, prayer which is a great quote from one of our rabbis, prayer is the way we connect with God. Study is the way God connects with us, which is a beautiful way. But prayer is one of the ways we connect with God. And because we're old and we like to connect with those before us, we have some basic beliefs about prayer. One, there's 2 modes to prayer. There's the text and the spiritual part. Keva and kavanah. Kavanah means intention. So that spiritual part is the hardest thing, because some people feel God and are very spiritual, and some people never feel any spirituality except when they go to the mountains, or they're in these beautiful places, or in profound moments when my child is born. But if I only spiritually connect with God when my children are born, that means it's only twice, because I've only had 2. So the spiritual is a lot harder. So Judaism believes we need to have the text to ensure that we still try and connect with God even if we don't feel it. The idea is that the more you pray using the text, the less you have to worry about the words, and the more you feel it. And so we're going to look at what is something a lot of us know, but it's the basic prayer formula that has been around a very long time. It's not biblical, it's post-biblical. There's not very many prayers in the Bible, but it is the prayer formula that was designated as a way that all generations and all people around the world who are Jewish can connect in the same way. So when you see, you go to churches, or ministers go to hospitals, chaplains, and they give these in the moment prayers. That is a new thing for Judaism. This idea of giving invocations and off the cuff prayers when you're visiting somebody in a hospital, or when you're blessing someone on their way. We have prayers for all these things. The other stuff we do more now because we're in America, and it's what is done. It's become what is the vernacular. So even as Jews, we do these invocations and all these other prayers in the moment. But from a Jewish perspective, we have set prayers, and the set formula is something we've all heard. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. 6 words. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Yes, I can count. 6 words. Doing pretty good there. My math skills have not dissipated. Although it was very funny that the other day we're looking at a diamond shape with my son, who's learning shapes, and we were outside or something, or I saw a piece of paper and I said, "Oh, that's a diamond." He said, "No, that's a rhombus." I'm like, "No, son, that is a diamond." And he's like, "No, Daddy, a diamond and a rhombus are the same thing." And I had to look it up, and it is true. A rhombus and a diamond are the same thing, which I did not remember. So my 6-year-old knows geometry better than I do, which is not surprising. That was really funny because I was sitting there debating with my 6-year-old, and he was right. So, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, blessed are you, eternal God, ruler of the universe. This is the basic prayer that is in almost all prayers, and if it's not at the beginning, it's at the end. Now, what are we missing here? We're missing, here's some food prayers, by the way. Oops. We're missing Asher Kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu, right? Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Asher Kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu, lahadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Shabbat.
Blessed are you, eternal God, ruler of the universe, who commands us to light candles for Shabbat. So why do some prayers have one and some prayers have the other? If it's a commandment from God, then you add the other stuff, usually with time bound. If I am saying a prayer for lighting the candles, I light the candles at that time. That's what I do. So whereas when I'm eating and I say thank you to God, there's no set time where I'm eating. I eat when I eat. I don't eat at sundown, and I don't eat when this happens. I eat when it's time to eat. So it's not a commandment, but we still say thank you to God for giving us what we have, but we're not commanded in the moment to eat bread. Now, one of the best ways to teach how we use the prayer is with the prayers for food. Now, it's a very simple prayer if we're having bread at a meal. If we're having bread at a meal, what's the prayer? Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lachem min haaretz, blessed are you, eternal God, ruler of the universe, who brings forth from the earth or from the ground. So anytime you have bread, it's considered a meal. So if I have a hamburger with a hamburger bun, that is a meal. If I have challah, it's a meal. If I have a sandwich, it's a meal. If I have a biscuit, it's probably going to be considered a meal. And so it's really easy. You say, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. But what if I'm not having bread? If you're not having bread, it is not considered a meal. It's considered a snack. So if I'm eating, let's go down here, an apple, I would say, blessed are you, eternal God of the universe, for creates fruit of the tree. Very simple. If I'm eating a potato, then I would say, blessed are you, eternal God, ruler of the universe, who creates fruit of the earth. Or pineapple or banana, because it's something on the ground, and then you can debate which is what. If I'm not eating fruits or vegetables or bread, and it's a kind of a meal thing, then I say the general blessing, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shakol niyeh bidvaro, by whose word all things came into being. So this is like if I have a steak, or I have eggs for breakfast, or I have yogurt for breakfast, or oatmeal, basically anything else. So, and then I have Borei Pri Hagafen, which is, it's blessed he creates fruit of the vine. But that's not a prayer for grapes, that's only for wine, and usually in certain circumstances with certain holidays and with Shabbat. So you have all these prayers, but what if I'm having a donut or cupcake or maybe cookies or candy, which is for most people is dessert, but for me is a meal. Then you have a special prayer, Borei Minei Mizonot, who creates various kinds of meals. But again, bread and cake are similar, but in Judaism they're considered different because it's legalistic. So if there's too much sugar, it's going to be cake. But you can have a little sugar or a little honey for a challah, or maybe a sweetened bread. So there's a real demarcation. You have to kind of figure out something versus, a sweet cake versus a piece of bread. So if I'm just having a cupcake, I'll say Borei Minei Mezonot. But here's the question. What if I'm having a meal without bread? I have a steak and potato and a salad, and then I have a cupcake but it's a big cupcake because I want my big cupcake. And I'm not going to eat actually the cupcake. I'm just going to have the top, but it's a big one. I'm probably have 2 cupcakes, but I'm just going to eat the 2 tops. So you have a wide variety of options. What are you going to choose? Because you could use 4 different prayers. You can use Borei Minei Mezonot. You can use Borei Pri Ha'etz, Borei Ha'adama, or Shakol Niyeh Bidvaro. And the answer is, you really have to figure it out for yourself, but it's usually what is the main course. If it's steak and potatoes with a salad, you're probably going to say the prayer of a steak. If it's a salad and you got a little chicken in there, you may say the prayer for Borei Pri Ha'adama. Where does lettuce come from? Is that on the ground or is that in trees? That's on the ground, right? So Ha'adama shows you how often I eat lettuce, or how often I farm. So if you have a wide range of stuff and you don't have bread, you kind of figure out what the main prayer is. It's usually going to be Shakol Niyeh Bidvaro, but not always. If I have an apple and if I have a banana, I've got an apple and a banana. You're only allowed to say one prayer for a meal, so I have to decide between the apple and banana which prayer I'm going to say. But there's also other things you have to take into consideration. And this I lived because I went to a traditional Jewish summer camp. I went to Camp Young Judea. It's not affiliated with any movement, but they keep halachic law, so they keep kosher and they don't turn the lights and all that kind of jazz. So you're only allowed 3 meals on a day, really, and especially for Shabbat, you can have 3 meals. So we'd have our service and then sundown, and we'd have dinner because it's a summer. And, we had dinner after services and late. And then we'd have breakfast. And then we'd have lunch. And then we'd have dinner before Havdalah. So that's 4 meals. 4 meals on Shabbat, which you're not allowed to have 4 meals on Shabbat. But it's really simple. How do you get away from it? It's obviously 4 meals. We go to the first rule. It's only a meal if you have bread. So for breakfast, all we have is cereal and cakes, and they don't have any bread. There's no bread at all. No challah, no toast. You can have cupcakes or donuts or whatever they're serving, cereal, but there's no bread. So it's not officially a meal. So again, that's how you keep the legalistic part of this idea. But we use these different prayers for all sorts of things. We just had Rosh Hashanah, so we would have said Borei Pri Ha'etz because we dipped the apple in honey. And by the way, the apple thing for Rosh Hashanah is probably fairly new. One of these days I'm going to look up how old it is, because obviously they didn't eat apples in ancient Israel. It just wasn't, they probably dates for celebration. So, but I don't know. And the same thing with the apple and Eve's hand, they didn't do that. I mean, that's not probably what was going on because the Garden of Eden, they had dates. So, apples somehow became very popular. Does anybody know why apple became so popular? I'm going to look that up one of these days. I'm going to have the answer for you because I've always wanted to know. Yes?
Karen will look it up.
All right, thank you.
I am, exactly. I was having
It's at her iPad. She'll look it up.
You go to the Sistine
tablet.
Chapel, and they're, they have an apple. So, but now,
Oops.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry about it. Sorry.
Now, what did you say? The Sistine Chapel?
Yeah, the Sistine Chapel.
On the
Don't-
I was
Ceiling.
just there. Yeah,
Yeah,
I was
don't
just
they-
there a few weeks ago.
Oh, is
Yeah.
that just that's just the hand reaching out, right?
I can show you a picture of it if you
I
want.
think it had an apple. I'm assuming.
Yeah, I have pictures.
You know, if it doesn't, then
I'll look it
he
up.
meant to put one in and just
And
forgot.
it should.
Yeah, it should. It had one originally, it was erased. Thank you,
That's right.
Lou, for being so supportive.
Right. You made a mistake and erased it, painted over it.
Yes.
Shutterfly. Keep going. I'm looking it up on Shutterfly.
So now, in Judaism, when it comes to prayers, we have different prayers. We have prayers for services. You know, so they're the set prayers we do every week and every day if you go to daily services. So we have set service prayers, and that's because we want to come together and say the same prayers our ancestors did and people are saying around the world. And it's a wonderful cyclical way of connecting. But we also have prayers just when we are outside the synagogue. Because we have, you know, you think of the famous prayer from Fiddle on the Roof. Is there a prayer for the Tsar? Of course, there's a prayer for the Tsar. May the Lord, may the Lord keep him far away
Yes,
from
and
us.
keep far away from us. Yeah.
Yes. So we have prayers for other things, but we use the prayer formula. So here is, for instance, 2 prayers or 3 prayers for seeing things in nature. You know, we're out in nature, we want to appreciate it, but we need to have a prayer for that. So when you see mountains, you say, Oseh Ma'aseh Bereshit, who makes the wonder of creation. And if you see a tree and animals, you say, Shekacha lo ba'almo bo'olamo. I don't use that one very often. And the famous one is if you see a rainbow, and it's hard reading in transliteration. My favorite of these is the rainbow one. That's why I brought it here, because you say, we praise you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe, who remembers, is faithful to, and fulfills your covenant with and is a terrible and fulfills your covenant with and promise to creation. That's the prayer for the rainbow. What are you missing in there?
The rainbow.
The word rainbow, it's not even in there. What are they doing? Rainbow is a very easy Hebrew word. It's in the Bible. It's in the Torah. They've got rainbow. So, Keshet, I mean, it's there. So it's the idea that we say prayers and we should use our set prayers in wondrous moments and when we have Sabbath. When I go to the hospital, what prayer do I say? I say the prayer for healing.
Healing, right.
Now, we've written one by Debbie Friedman that's very popular, another by Lisa Levine, but there's a traditional one. That's the one I use. Or if somebody's going on a trip, there's a prayer for going on a trip. Or if you're going to Israel, there's a separate trip prayer for going to Israel.
Your whole life.
That's right. When we say the priestly benediction, which is a prayer found in the Bible, one of the very few designated as a prayer. When we bless our children, we say an additional part for a boy and a girl, maybe like Ephraim and Manasseh, maybe Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, Leah. And then we say the priestly benediction for our children. When we go to a wedding, there is set Jewish liturgy, including saying Borei Pri Hagafen twice. That is set for the actual, and there's not very much, but it's there, including 7 blessings, which is the main portion of the wedding. There's 2 parts of the wedding: the betrothal ceremony, the wedding ceremony, that were meshed together. The wedding ceremony is basically 7 blessings, the Sheva Brachot, which means 7 blessings. All of them have just about Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. When we do a circumcision, a Brit Milah, we have prayers for the circumcision. It's a set prayer. It's not something we just make up. So the tradition has been really interesting for us as we have all of the incredible traditions. And all you got to really do is know 6 words to know the basis. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, blessed are you, eternal God, ruler of the universe. Now,
Rabbi,
yes, Flossie.
with the hostages being returned, would they have said a prayer there?
Yes, there's a set prayer for the return of hostages, actually. It's in ancient times, and it happens today, especially places like Mexico, where people are kidnapped and ransomed. It was an unfortunate tradition in ancient times, and it continues to be. I just say Mexico because I used to live next to it. I know that was very popular, not just for Jews, for anybody. But part of the Jewish law is you leave no person behind. So if somebody who did not have the means to pay off his ransom was kidnapped, the community was responsible for doing it. And so that is the prayer that you would use. It's the same, and it's the same. Israel takes this belief a step farther. In Israel, you leave no man or woman behind, whether they're living or dead. So Israel just released a lot of people to get a very small number of living people and a very small number of deceased bodies, all based upon this belief that you don't leave anybody behind. So can you think of any other prayers that we might be saying outside that use this prayer formula? All right, good job. I think
Lou
we
had one.
Yeah.
Lou has one.
Oh, Lou, sorry.
I have kind of a different question.
Yes.
You're talking about all the different foods that you eat and different prayer for each food. I don't mean to sound sacrilegious, but who in the world does that?
That is a good question. You mean who says a prayer before every time they eat?
Yeah, and before I eat an apple, before I have a meal without bread, before I have a cookie, whatever.
That is a
Or
great
go
question.
outside and I see a tree. I mean,
That is a
I
great
don't mean to be
question.
sacrilegious, but I don't say a prayer if I see a tree. Do
I'm-
other people?
Some people do, but the idea is you know it's there. Judaism expresses an understanding that we should be thanking God for everything we have, even if we're not doing it personally ourselves. You know, that's why we have it. So do I say it every time I eat an apple? No, I try and say it if I for my meals, privately, if I remember, but a lot of times I forget, I start eating, I'm like, oh, I forgot it this time. That's okay, because leading services Monday night, I forgot to light the candles. But that's, there's a prayer for candlesticks also that to put them up. Maybe I said that. But yes, it's the fact that it's there. And yes, Karen.
I found we asked about Rosh Hashanah and why apples, when that came
Yes.
about. I just want to read that real quick. The association of apples with Rosh Hashanah began in the Middle Ages with the first known mention appearing in the 11th century French prayer book, Maxor Vitry. The
That's a
custom of
famous
eating
one.
apples dipped in honey to symbolize the sweet New Year gained traction in 14th century Germany and later became a widely adopted tradition, even though apples are not mentioned in the Talmud as a Rosh Hashanah symbol. So that's the answer.
That's awesome. I wonder if that's also when it started being part of Christian iconography, is about the same time. Interesting.
So I tried finding pictures of the Sistine Chapel. I couldn't find an apple, but it's a lot of painting up there. So
Yeah, we're going to assume if you don't see the apple, it's because it's behind one of the bushes. That's all.
It's been picked already.
Yeah. So yes, question. Okay. So again, finding time to say all these prayers is really up to us. Some people do it all the time, but that's why we have services, so that people will have a place to go to say prayers.
That going on Saturday morning, does that cover our butt for the whole week?
That does.
We get lunch.
That's right, and a good lunch. Like, that's a good one. And, but yeah, again, Judaism does not say that you have to do something all the time for everything. And so, but again, it's nice to have these prayers, to have these connections. So we know when we put up a mezuzah, are we going to say Asher Kiddushanu Mitzvotav V'Tzivanu for mezuzah? Is it a commandment? Yes, because it's a commandment when you put up the mezuzah in that moment that you build your house, that officially your house becomes your house, that it is considered a commandment. So you'd say that for putting up the mezuzah. So if you haven't put up a mezuzah, or you want me to come by and say the prayer, happy to come by anytime to do it. Yes, somebody. Flossie.
Could we say the question that Lou asked, majority, I don't know, many people who give a bracha for every little thing. Could we do out of gratitude, just going and saying, I am grateful for the day, the beautiful day, or I'm grateful for seeing all these trees and things, that we just are inclusive in one.
Absolutely. So Judaism also says you can show appreciation to God any way you want. There's that very famous story about the little boy who didn't know how to pray. And so he just started saying the alphabet. And the rabbi says that is, as a little boy, as good of a prayer as anybody's ever said. We're also allowed to pray in our language, that our vernacular language you're allowed to pray in. So again, that was the mindset of the Reformed movement in the late 19th century and early to mid 20th century, is we can pray in English. Why don't we pray in English? I mean, it says it in the Talmud. You can pray not in English. It says in the Talmud you can pray in your native tongue. So why not? So it makes it more exciting, more interesting, because there's so many options. You have to learn the traditions. And you have to also remember that a lot of our ancestors lived in societies that were walled off from the rest of the world. So they spent their times making prayers and thinking about these things, and writing. Their whole lives were devoted to figuring these things out, because they didn't have TV or science or outside connections. And some prayers that you might think you shouldn't do for time bound, you do. Like when I eat a meal, I say, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. But if I'm going to wash my hands, you're supposed to wash your hands at certain times in Judaism. One of them is after leaving a cemetery, and another is after saying the prayer for wine before you eat your challah on Friday night. You wash your hands ceremoniously, and you say, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al netilat yadayim. Blessed are you, eternal God, ruler of the universe, who commands us concerning the washing of hands. And so even though that's not seemingly time bound, because it's the same thing, because it's after a funeral, it's considered time bound. And since you have the same prayer for this, then you say the commandments. So some people say prayers all the time. Some come to it later. Like when I leave a cemetery now, I do. There's a basin you can wash your hands when you leave Bonaventure. But other cemeteries don't have it, so I don't have the option. So maybe I'll do it when I get home, or I'll think about doing it when I get home, and then I forget.
Rabbi, some people I know have been, when we've done Shiva calls or go to someone's home after a funeral, there'll be a pitcher of water outside.
Yeah,
on a table
exactly.
just before you go into the house. Probably all seen that.
Yeah.
Same
So,
idea. And just another thing, when we go, like sometimes we've had dinner at the Abad rabbi's home, and they will wash their hands before they,
Right.
symbolically with the pitcher of water.
and that's
So-
always the way they try and get you. It's not hand. I'll tell you why. Because the tradition is after you wash your hands, you're not allowed to speak before you say motzi.
That's right.
If
That's
you're the
right.
first one to wash your hands and there's like 20 people, that means you're waiting for a long time till somebody finally will say motzi. And then after you have a piece of bread, you can talk. So if you're not used to that tradition, you always make the mistake and you start talking to everybody.
Right.
And you,
Right.
you think everybody's rude.
That's a good point.
That's how they get you. They make you look like an idiot. I'm not telling you this if you've never done it before. It's a guarantee the first time they will not tell you don't talk just so they can. It's a prank that Jews like to play on Jews and non-Jews. So
P-R-E-Y.
what is
Pray
that?
on you. P-R-E-Y, pray.
Yes, that's right.
Not P-R-A-Y.
P-R-E-Y, prey on non-Jews. So,
Rabbi,
Flossie,
on washing our hands when we leave the cemetery, is that more a superstition?
that is not a superstition. That is actually a Jewish law, because it is biblical in nature, not the prayer itself, but the idea behind it. So we know about the Kohanim, right? Everybody knows about the priests. So they were required to wash anytime they touched a dead body or perhaps touched a cemetery or a graveyard, just like when they had alcohol. So there are certain rules that are biblical about what you're supposed to do after you. Now, washing your hands before having the challah, that's become more of a tradition, and maybe Battalma as well. But the washing your hands after leaving a cemetery is based upon the biblical idea that you are impure if you are touching a dead body. Some would say, for Kohanim, if you are on hallowed ground. So that is the representation of we're now. Now, impure doesn't mean anything bad, because a lot of us are impure a lot. Like if we've touched somebody who's dead, or we've done this or that, or doctors and nurses and funeral home directors, and and people who work at the funeral home or work at the cemetery, or people have done other things, are in a state of impurity, which does not make any difference. It's not, unless you're doing something that you need to do before God. So you can be impure forever. But the idea is, you've just gone to the cemetery, you're now impure. We're not going to go to the mikveh, so let's wash our hands. All right. So now I want to see if anybody has ideas of what we want to do through the end of December. We're going to be meeting for several weeks in October, November, and December. If not, I'll start we can start doing a lesson plan again, maybe on anything people have any idea they want me to do. We did several weeks on Bible. We could do the Talmud. We could do traditions and myths. We could do history. Flossie, I know, mentioned do some things in the modern world. We can talk about the different movements and how they've adjusted to the modern world. Okay, so if you have any ideas, let me know, Lou. If you're not, just email me, Karen or Lou, or Flossie.
Go ahead, Lou. Lou first.
This is I think, maybe too big of a topic for a Wednesday morning, but I will be very honest. I do not understand spirituality. I don't know what it means. And like I said, maybe that's too big of a topic, or maybe it's not even anything that can be explained. Maybe it's just something you have to feel. I don't know. Your turn.
I think it's a great idea. We could talk about Jewish spirituality, and if it's too big for us Wednesday morning, we can do another Wednesday morning. But again, we could talk about Jewish spirituality. What is spirituality? I think that's an excellent one, because we use the word and everybody knows what it means, but they don't really know what it means.
I mean, you started
like
off
that.
the class talking about it. And I almost asked then, but I wanted, you to do your class. And anyway.
That's a great idea. So we'll do Jewish spirituality next week, and then we'll think of some ideas. And we can bring. Oh, sorry, Karen.
No, I was going to say, I had the other thought. I know we did this once upon a time when we were having our monthly meetings in people's homes, talking about Jewish traditions around the world. You know,
Okay, we'll
and
do that.
other
Those
than
are good ones.
there's some very interesting. And I want to share something before we sign up. Just something that just happened this morning that. I
Oh,
want to-
please do. I'm going to write these down before I
Well,
forget.
this fascinates me, which is what prompted me to think. Just before we started, I was having my landscaper comes, the guy who does my lawn, and his wife works for him. Anyway, he's from Guatemala, or they're from Guatemala. And once upon a time, years ago, he asked me, he saw the mezuzah on my door and said, "Oh, you're Jewish." And he was telling me he was Jewish. And I'd completely forgotten. And I was just in a conversation with his wife in Spanish. And she saw the mezuzah and mentioned to me that they are Jewish. And apparently there is a congregation of Hispanic Jews right here in the Low Country. She said they have about 80 people. She was telling me they just had a bar mitzvah for their son. And she showed me all the pictures. And apparently they're looking into they've found property. They're going to build a synagogue and they have a rabbi who comes from, I forget where. She showed me pictures of the rabbi doing the bar mitzvah. I had no idea. And there is a connection between, she said they're not all from Guatemala, but there's a connection. We learned this when we visited Guatemala. Apparently there was some war or something that happened, I want to say back in the 70s, maybe 80s, where Israel was the first country that came in to provide relief. Maybe it was a natural disaster, but apparently they're so pro-Israel in Guatemala that a lot of Guatemalans have converted to Judaism.
Wow, I had known anything.
And the fact that she's got 80 people and they meet regularly for Shabbat services. So actually I invited her to come Friday night, going to Oseh Shalom. And probably
Right.
they and their children are going to come with me. And she asked me if I knew where she could send her children to Hebrew school. So I just this just happened just before we started. I was
That
just
was amazing. I didn't know anything about that.
I had no idea, but yeah, it should be interesting I wonder if we can't do something where we can somehow interact with
Definitely.
the Hispanic community of Jews. So I
That
was
would
telling
be
her about
amazing.
Mikveh Israel, and
Well,
I may
we'd love
bring
to
them
meet
with
with
me
them.
some Saturday. Anyway, wanted to share that with all of you.
Strange little things around the world.
Just, yeah, how we connect.
And we'll conclude
Rabbi.
with Ron.
Robin,
Ron,
well, I want to try to answer Lou's question on spirituality. Of course, you all know the type of operation I had. And the surgeon told me I may not wake up from it. But when I first opened my eyes, and about a week or two later, they finally wheeled me in where I can see the outside. And you look at the trees, they look greener. You look at people and you like them for who they are, their good side. You appreciate when you drive down the streets here that, gee, aren't we lucky that we're living here? Spirituality is a feeling that you get. And I'm sure that I can go on and on and on because of all the months that it took me to finally get home. But you look at the brighter side of life,
Oh, thank you, Ron.
which is very important.
that's a great way. And I'll have you bring that up next week too, because we're going to talk about it. That's a great way. So we'll conclude today. A reminder that this Sunday is the
Woman of Valor.
Woman of Valor. I'm looking at the time again. So I forgot for
1:30. It's at
1:30.
1:30. Yeah.
1:30. I will looking forward to it. And then as for what's coming up, obviously the big one, we have a lot, I mean, there's stuff every week, as we know, but the big one, of course, is going to be Food Festival. That is going to be November 9th. So hopefully volunteering, if not, at least you'll come. And I am doing an Ollie course on the 10th, if anybody's interested.
Oh, good. Okay. Can I mention one? I'm sorry.
Sure, please do.
Yeah, because we just finalized. I'm going to be teaching my 4-part class on the history of Jewish immigration to the United States, which will be a Zoom class starting 2 weeks from yesterday, I guess. It starts on Tuesday the 28th, and it's 4 consecutive weeks. So something should be going out. I think Bob said today, Bob
Right.
Greenberg.
Is it
So-
Tuesday that, no, I'm looking at Tuesday.
4 Tuesdays.
Is it
28th.
starting on the 28th? Oh, I'm in the wrong week. That's
Oh,
make sure on
yeah.
the 28th of October.
yes, and then it'd be
That's what I
November
was gonna. Yes. All right. Good.
9th, no, November 4th,
4th, right?
11th.
So that'll be at 6 o'clock,
No.
right?
No, 8 o'clock. No, I'm not, no, not even, 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock. We were both
Okay,
close.
sorry. Now you got
Do I hear 7:30?
We'll make it
7
7:30
to
now.
8:30. That's it, 7 to
Let's make it
8:30.
7:21, just to be a little.
Okay, that's fine.
Rabbi, you said you would do your Ollie class for us at some point. It
I'll
doesn't
be
have to
happy.
be.
I'm doing an Ollie
next week.
class on history of the Bible, the Jewish Bible. I'm happy with that. So,
Rabbi,
yeah. Flossie.
we had a Shabbaton weekend. What is that, and are we doing that again?
We are doing it again. I think the date is tentatively going to be, we had to do it later this year. It's going to be May 30th, that weekend of May 29th, May 30th.
And what is it, please?
It's a weekend retreat at Wesley Monumentals. They have a retreat center in Savannah. So you can come for the day. I mean, it's starts Friday night and goes all day Saturday, and then in a little bit Sunday morning. So you can come just for Saturday, or if you get in early enough, you can come and spend the night Friday and Saturday.
Okay, and information's going to be coming out?
Oh yeah. The information we got. That's it's far in advance, but we've had 2 of them, but they've both been awesome.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Everyone,
Rabbi.
have a wonderful day. Thank you to Ava and David and
Thanks.
Ron and Flossie and Arlene and Lou and Karen. You guys have a great one. Shana Tova. Have a happy rest of the year, everybody.
Thank you.
Stay safe,
Bye, everybody.
everyone. Oh, I forgot to put you guys on gallery.